Hi, my name is Brian Caffo, and welcome to this week's episode of Fully Cloudy. This week I'm going to talk about gigantum. So, gigantum is a tool for reproducible research that was created by some friends of the data science lab here at Johns Hopkins. So, really led by Josh Fogelstein and Dow Clark and the others of the gigantum team. And they have sent me some nice instructions about how to run gigantum as a cloud application. Gigantum is really initially written to run as a desktop app, but it's really is kind of a cloud project in that the desktop app just syncs with the cloud, runs in a browser. So it in principle shouldn't be so bad to run off of, say, a DigitalOcean instance, and that's what I'm going to show you today. And it actually is pretty easy. So the instructions I have are here on a gist. I'll put this in the video notes, but if you just go to my GitHub account and in the gist note.markdown, it gives. So the first step, just to walk you through this a little bit, the first step is to create a gigantum DigitalOcean instance. So, or whatever, you can do it on EC2 or Google Cloud Platform or as your whatever one of those things you want to do. I'm using DigitalOcean because that's what I like. So here I've created one. So DigitalOcean has, you need Docker installed. And so what's nice about DigitalOcean is they have these one-click Docker apps. So what I did is I just created a DigitalOcean instance, and instead of going through the normal DigitalOcean droplet creation, I just created a one-click Docker application. So this is an Ubuntu 16.04 distribution, but it has Docker pre-installed, and here's my IP address. So here I am logged in as root. So let me just go through the steps. So first I want to update. And then if you go to the gist, all the notes are here. Then I need to install Python 3 and Python 3 pip. Okay. Python 3 is already installed. All right, now we're going to install pip. You just have to remember when you're using pip with Python 3, it's not automatically aliased to pip, it's pip3. So you just have to remember that was a problem. I think gigantum is sort of created for Python 3. So if you forget that, then it'll mess up. So just when you're looking at the instances, the things you have to do here, just make sure that you actually do pip3. It's really only this step right here. Okay. It's taking a little bit to do pip, but once that's done, then we'll create a new user. You can't really run gigantum as root, or it's probably not the best thing to do to run as root. So let's do this. We're going to add a user, gig user. Just create password. Okay, and then I want to add this gig user to the Docker group so that they can run Docker. So gigantum runs on top of Docker. And then I'm going to switch that user. You know what? I'm going to install Emacs too. Emacs is kind of a big program for a text editor, but I like it. It's sort of only it's the only text editor that I know all the keystrokes to work with just in the terminal. So that's why I do that. But if you have one that you prefer, if you can just use ED or VI or something like that, then you could just use that, of course. Whew, yeah, Emacs is a big program. Okay, so while it's doing this, I thought this was going to be faster than this. Just to go through the steps, we're going to switch over to gig user. Before we do that, though, I'm going to switch it so that SSH allows for passwords, just so for this video tutorial, I don't have to set up passwordless logins. Okay, there we go. So to set up the, by default, at least on DigitalOcean and probably on most of these instances, SSH is not password. SSH doesn't allow for password logins by default. So you want to go to, say, let's see, so I'm in etc SSH, and then you want to emacs sshd config. And then you want to go down and find pub key authentication. Where is it? There's got to be something. Yeah, password authentication. See, it says that right here, right there. So you want that. You want to change that to yes for allowing password authentication. Come on, what is it? Yeah, that should do it. Oh. Okay, and then let's just do that. Do that too. Okay, now it should work. Okay. Now I want to log in as gig user. So gig user, I think. Okay, now I'm logged in as gig user. Now let's go back to my thing. And I want to install Gigantum using pip3. And it gives me, this doesn't matter. You probably want to upgrade, but I don't think it matters whether you do or you don't right now. And then you want to install Gigantum. Okay. This should just take a second. So while it's doing that, so let's get our IP address. I'm going to copy my IP address. And then now when I log into my SSH, new window, there we go. There we go. So I want to do SSH. I want gig user, enter the password that you created earlier. Okay, now I got to start, I actually got to start Gigantum on the remote. So actually, it'd be nice to actually get it running before I try and start it. Okay. So now I go back to the SSH session where I forwarded the port. Okay, now it's starting Gigantum. Now if I go to localhost 1000, boom, there's Gigantum. And you log in, okay, and there's me. So you got to create like a Gigantum password and that sort of thing. But then there it is. So I'll have a different video about how to use Gigantum, but that's how you can get it up and running on a DigitalOcean server. Now, so basically what, let me just re-go through the steps real quick. So what I did was I created a DigitalOcean instance that had Docker or an EC2 instance or whatever, Google Cloud Platform, Azure, whatever. It's just it has to have Docker. Then I made sure that it had Python 3, and Python 3 pip. I added a new user. I called this user gig user. It doesn't matter what username you use, of course. And then you just have to make sure to add that user to the Docker group so that it can use Docker. Then I went in, and then if you want to do this the right way, you would then get your public key authentication set up for this new user. Okay, but for me, in order to just do this demo quickly, maybe it wasn't that quick, I went in and allowed for password logins for SSH. So I won't normally do that, but for this case I did. Okay, Then after I did that, I switched to this user, and then I installed Gigantum using pip, and then I installed, I installed Gigantum using pip, and then Gigantum install does the Docker installation. Okay, and then I SSH'd, and then if you're using a Mac or something like this where you have like a command line SSH, then I can just SSH to the server, but I made sure to forward port 1000 to localhost. Okay, and then on the remote, when I SSH'd in, I started up Gigantum, and then I went to localhost on port 1000, and then Gigantum was up and running. Okay, so that's all of the steps. It's here on the gist. Worked for me. Try it out. See if it works for you. And later on, I'll have a video about how to actually use Gigantum. But for right now, just give it a shot. All right. Well, let me know in the notes if you have any success, and or in the comments, let me know if you have any success, and I'll see you next week.